Hello and welcome to Against the Storm version 0.39, the Camps Update, Part 1. This update is fairly obviously focused around the new camp system, where they have introduced small camps for the trapper, the forager, and the herbalist that are essential buildings and are available in every game from the start of every game. In addition to those, there are still the existing stonecutters, woodcutters, and harvesters camps, which are kind of focused around harvesting materials that you use to make building materials. So stonecutter obviously is mostly stone and clay, although it does gather the sea marrow as well. Woodcutters camp, of course, wood, but again, the miscellaneous resources that come with the trees. And the harvesters camp that gathers plant fiber and reeds. However, these new camps, and they also removed the scavengers camp. And the reason is because these new camps now each harvest three mostly food-based resources in the game. And they're all gathering unique resources so that there's no overlap between any two camps. So, as before with the scavenger gathering eggs and roots, as well as the trapper gathering eggs, now, only the trapper's camp gathers eggs. Only the forager's camp gathers roots, and so you don't need the scavenger's camp anymore. However, these three new small camps work slower than their regular counterparts. To unlock the regular counterparts, you get them the same way you got them in the previous versions. You unlock them either via a blueprint reward from reputation. You can unlock them from the trader, and you can unlock them from a reward from any other source, like maybe from finding them in a glade, for example. These small camps only gather small 1x1 nodes, which means that whenever you find those large 2x2 nodes, you'll have to have the regular camp, the normal camp, in order to harvest those larger nodes. Also, the small camps are slower at harvesting than the regular camps, the normal camps. I'm actually a big fan of this because it's always been a hassle for me to be able to gather things like meat and insects. Now that these three camps are available from the beginning, I don't have to worry about spending resources or spending a blueprint on the trapper's camp, or especially in the marshlands, wanting to have all three camps so that I can open up and harvest all three of the giant organisms. I now can be able to get to them all, although I'm guessing that these small camps won't actually harvest those giant organisms because they don't harvest the giant nodes, so I'm sure they don't harvest the large nodes, so I'm sure they don't harvest the giant organisms. But still, it's nice to have them to get that initial meat or vegetables or something that's in that starting biome that's in the way or so hard to get from the beginning of the game. They've also made a few other changes to various parts of the game for balance reasons. Once you have fully depleted ore, either coal or copper, from the map, the nodes will not disappear, so you don't have to worry about seeing them there and not being able to use them anymore, them being zero. However, I think they'll stay until you've done the upgrade to the mine twice on them. I would assume they would stay, because otherwise, if you delete that mine and they're depleted and you can put a mine back on there, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to maybe we can try it. I'm not sure. The patch notes don't actually say what they mean by fully depleted, but they do say fully depleted, so I'm going to guess that it's only removing them once you've upgraded the mine that's on them twice and harvested them completely. The homestead, which I haven't seen in eons, has had some balance changes as well. There are they've tweaked the recipes a little, or the items you can grow there: grain, plant fiber, vegetables, and mushrooms. 3 stars for the first 2, 2 stars for the second 2. I honestly can't remember what the old one was because it's been so long since I've seen it last. The forbidding of services in the consumption control panel will not apply the resolve penalty if that service building a service building for that item was not available in the settlement. The archaeologist's office is now movable. Some of the rewards for glade events have been tweaked. Living matter has been reduced. Destroyed cage of the war beast has been increased, which is good, because that was kind of a nightmare. And the Monastery of the Holy Flame world map modifier tile will not spawn next to the Cursed Royal Woodlands anymore. Many, many, many orders have had their rewards rebalanced. I'm not going to list them all. Also, some orders have had their objectives changed. Some of that is because of the changes to the camps. And all orders requiring the construction of a camp or resource gathering in a camp can now be completed with either a small or regular camp. Multiple perks and cornerstones have been rebalanced. Nodes that gain, or perks that increase node charges, now increase charges dependent upon the size of the nodes. So like Rich Glades, for example, adds 5 charges to small nodes and 20 charges to large nodes. Also, large nodes have been increased by default up from 60 to 70. Large nodes spawn more frequently in dangerous and forbidden glades. Small nodes spawn less frequently. Some small glades have had more nodes added to them, more small nodes added to them, so that they make themselves a little more balanced. If you've noticed, sometimes you get a small glade that has like 3 nodes in it, and it's like, this glade was a disappointment. So they've kind of balanced it so that you get a fair amount of things in every small glade. They've also reduced the number of resource nodes in glades with ruined settlements, which is an interesting change for if it's next to the ruined settlement modifier tile, and there's so many ruined settlements in your map, that means you're going to have much less resources, which is kind of an interesting change. I mean, you could potentially get more from trading or whatever, but the stuff on the ground is less then. They've also rebalanced the resources available in glades in pretty much all the biomes in the game, especially the Cursed Royal Woodlands. I'm not going to list off what each biome contains, but make sure you check and with what your glades or what your biome contains before you make any decisions, because they have changed a few things on the ground. One of the things that surprised me most is they put meat on the ground in the coral forest, even though you get meat from the trees. That was kind of a surprise to me. But the Cursed Royal Woodlands has been given a huge overhaul, so that it's no longer a pseudo-clone of the Royal Woodlands. So expect to find insects in the trees instead of resin, for example. They've slightly decreased the number of ruins in Forbidden Glades with ruined settlements in them. The tutorials, if you are a new player or planning to purchase the game, have been revamped to accommodate all the changes in this update, especially the camp system changes. And you will get the small camps in the tutorial, through the tutorial process. The Rain Collector perk, which is the one where you get crystallized dew in the Rain Collector, has been removed and was replaced as a level reward with the Burnt to a Crisp perk, which is the Coal for Burning Blightrot Cyst perk. There are also a lot of UI and UX improvements. The newly added drop-down choice in the woodcutters camp for how you want the trees to behave, or how you want the woodcutters to behave with the trees, has been changed to a list of radio buttons. If you shift-click on the radio buttons, it will propagate that change to all camps in the settlement. And they also added a new option for only marked trees and avoid glades, which I'm not sure exactly if that means that they won't break into glades even if you mark the trees. I guess that's what that means, which is interesting. An interesting concept. They've moved all of the gameplay options to a separate tab, and they've also renamed the settings menu to the options menu. The reason they did this is because they've added a few gameplay options, especially an auto pause, where you can have the game auto pause at certain events, such as the start of each season separately, discovering of different types of glades separately, trader arrival, and perhaps they'll add more in the future. They've added an option to the settings, or the options menu, rather, to disable the recipe ordering based on priority. So right now, if you click on, let's say, the second or third recipe in a building, if you click the up priority button, that one jumps to the top, assuming they were all the same before. And then underneath your cursor is a different recipe. So you may accidentally add a priority to that one and then need to remove it, etc. Now it only gives you it only moves, you can tell it to not move them so that you can leave them in the same order that you're used to by default. They've also added an option to switch rotation to clockwise. I don't know if I will actually change this now because I've gotten kind of used to the counterclockwise rotation, but maybe I'll see in my next town, and then I'll decide if I want to change that rotation, because clockwise rotation is more normal for games, so it makes more sense. They've added some details in a few different screens, especially the trade route screen, where it tells you why you can't start the trade route. Opening the recipe panel automatically sets the focus on the search bar. Tutorials are no longer counted toward or against your player statistics in the Smoldering City. So, since I skipped my 2 tutorial towns in my game that I started for the Steam series, now they were counted against me. They were counted as 2 losses. They should be just completely removed from that as of this update. There's also a few other changes for UI and UX. If you want to see a little more detail, take a look at the notes either on Steam or on the Eremite Games website. Few other key things though. Holding shift while assigning a worker to a slot will fill all empty slots with available villagers of the selected species. And holding shift while unassigning villagers will remove all workers from a building. They added a few new hotkeys: F for the mark trees option, or command or function, and G for the clear trees function, and V for the destruction mode. They also moved around a couple of the other hotkeys, so the order panel is T, trade routes is Y, recipe panel is U, and screenshot mode is O. That's going to be confusing for me because I use screenshot mode a lot. They've also cleaned up the HUD, the bottom left corner where all the perks and cornerstones and stuff pop in there and display, so that perks no longer spawn child versions to track the progress. The progress is tracked on the home icon. There are also a huge number of bug fixes in here, as often there are. Nothing that I think that I've ever even seen in my plays, but maybe I have and I just didn't realize it. And then finally, they extended the fog size of undiscovered glades to make sure that you can't see if there's visible fertile soil on the edges of glades. I suspect some people were cutting right up to the last tree and seeing if, hey, is there some fertile soil right here? If there is, I'm punching into this glade. If there isn't, I'm ignoring it. So they've tried to hide that or control that a little bit as well. So if there's anything else you'd like to point out that I might have missed, let me know in the comments or come to my Discord. The link is in the description below. And let me know in the Against the Storm channel or anywhere, the general chat or whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm not picky. And otherwise, I will see you back in the Let's Play series with the new update starting tomorrow, if you're watching this as it's released, or very soon if you're watching it a little later. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you then. Bye for now.